Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Southeast Media Sunrise, dedicated to giving a voice to authors of all genres. I'm your host, Jodi Hockinson. Joining us remotely by phone today is Nancy Hartwell, author of Harem Slave, 1,904 Days of Hell on the Persian Gulf. Nancy Hartwell is an internationally recognized authority on human trafficking and the 21st century slave trade. She has appeared on more than 700 radio and TV interviews on the topic in 30 countries and has written 3 books about victims of this horrible crime. The flagship book of her human trafficking series, Harem Slave, earned an award and reached number 7 in all fiction on Amazon of more than 3 million titles. It has been translated into French, German, and Spanish. The sequel, Prince Ibrahim's Favorite, also won an award and is currently being translated into French. Prince Ibrahim has a companion volume, Voices from the Harem. Nancy speaks a dozen languages and has traveled to 45 countries. She currently lives in Tampa, Florida. Welcome, Nancy, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for helping me get the word out.
I understand this is a topic you became obsessed with. How did that obsession come about?
Oh, my goodness. Well, my husband was from Cameroon, and a number of years ago when I was living there, a good friend of mine just disappeared. They found her bicycle next to the road, and nobody heard from or has seen Ursula ever since. Now, a few weeks later, we heard rumors that were probably true that she had been sold to a sultan in Libya. That spooked me no end because 45 years ago, I was a pretty cute blonde myself, and I kept thinking, holy Toledo, that could have been me.
So true.
So I started collecting stories, and once people know that you're interested in this topic, you get bombarded with stories. And so many years later, I was able to take these true stories and put them into my books, which are all based on these true stories.
So who would you say, who and what are the most likely victims?
Okay, runaways have a target on them the size of Texas. There are predators that are trolling bus stations, railway stations, public parks, looking for runaways. They will approach them and offer them everything they dreamed of, like a safe place to sleep, a hot meal, security. And then after a few days, they'll say, you know, honey, you owe me big time here. And then they move in for the kill. Also, young men, believe it or not, are in grave danger of being recruited for labor slavery. This is especially true in poor countries in Southeast Asia and the poor countries near the Persian Gulf. In this country, it's the illegal immigrants who are extremely vulnerable, and these predators prey on the most vulnerable people. So, and children, there seems to be a bottomless market for pedophiles. So these are the people who are most at risk.
So what are some of the sneaky ways that they get around the not talking to strangers rule?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, parents have done a really good job of teaching their kids don't talk to strangers. But the predators know that, so they have devised some really, really insidious ways of breaking the stranger barrier. Number 1, a dog. Children love dogs, and dogs love children. And there was recently a very instructive video posted on YouTube about this guy who goes to a playground and he has a dog. And he goes up to the parents and says, do you think I would be able to lure your child to leave with me? And the parents said, ha, 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 yeah, sure. No. They know they're not supposed to talk to strangers. Well, guess what? 8 out of 8 kids left with him because he had a dog and promised to show them other puppies. And they were skipping along beside him, holding his hand, not what we conceive to be a typical kidnapping, but it very well could have been. He just wanted to prove the point that it is very easy to get around don't talk to strangers.
100%. Holy cow.
Yeah, 8 out of 8.
So obviously, this doesn't happen only in third world countries. Where would you say the 21st century slave trade is the worst?
Well, probably in Southeast Asia. If you have any seafood products in your freezer from Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, or Indonesia, there's about an 80% chance that it involves slave labor. They go to poor countries, they recruit people, promising them wonderful jobs. The families give them going away parties because they're going to be able to send money back home, and this sounds like an answer to prayer. But then they get to where they're going, and their transportation is paid. It's a whole lot easier to lure people than it is to kidnap them, okay? Then they get there, and suddenly all the rules have changed. They take their travel documents, they keep the guys locked up, they make them work 18-hour days, and if they don't perform, they simply dump them overboard. The second worst place is probably the Persian Gulf. The World Cup finals will be played in Qatar on the Persian Gulf in 2022. And the facilities are already under construction with slave labor. Once again, it's the same scenario. They go to nearby poor countries, offer wonderful jobs, and they get there, and suddenly everything is different. The conditions are so bad, they work like 18-hour days under 130-degree heat. They have been averaging a death a day, and hardly anybody knows. I think this is just horrible, and we need to be mad.
So what are people doing to eradicate this horrible crime?
Well, it's really tough. The international slave trade is mostly controlled by the Russian mafia. These are professional criminals who really know what they're doing. They have their tentacles absolutely everywhere. And by the way, the center for the international slave trade in the Western Hemisphere is on the island of Aruba. There are 3 principal industries in Aruba. Number 1, illegal drugs. Number 2, human trafficking. And number 3, tourism. It is very hard to completely eradicate this crime. But if your community does not have a task force against human trafficking, do your best to set one up, because the problem in this country, we have a very patchwork system of law enforcement against human trafficking. If one county cracks down, they just move to the county next door that closes a blind eye to it. So what we really need is a nationwide concerted effort. But if every community comes up and starts fighting this crime, then we're a whole lot better off.
What could I do as a parent to help protect my kids?
Number 1, talk to them about it. Parents are very reluctant to talk to their children about this because they don't want to, quote, traumatize them, unquote. But we teach them about other dangers. We tell them not to put their hand on a hot stove. There's danger. We tell them not to cross the street without looking both ways. There's danger. Guess what? There's danger about being trafficked. And we don't talk to them about it. Please, please, please talk to your children about the dangers of this crime. Number 2, monitor your kids' social media sites. There are predators lurking behind online computer games. They put ads on websites that they know that young people like, offering wonderful opportunities. So do it with them rather than behind their backs, because then you're a horrible parent who's going to ruin their lives. Do it with them so you can turn it into an educational experience rather than a police raid, and show them sites that have lots of red flags or pictures that never in a million years should have been uploaded onto the internet. And if you want to soften the blow, you might even want to tell them, okay, look, you know this stuff, but your friend Melinda, she's so clueless. You need to tell her to be aware of all of this. Every kid has some clueless friend. Excuse me. And that way you're not insulting your own kids. They can get real sensitive about stuff like that. So tell them, okay, you need to tell Melinda about this because she's really at risk.
So the name of your book, Harem Slave, tell me about that, how you came up with that name for your book.
Well, it's like I say, it's based on true stories. It's a story about a girl from Maryland who's visiting her friends in Marseille in France. And while she's there, she's kidnapped, and to her utter disbelief, ends up in a harem of a sheikh. And this book explains how she deals with this and how the effect that it has on her and also on her owners. It's a very good read. And like I say, it did reach number 7 in all fiction on Amazon. So I think you'll enjoy reading the book, and it's extremely instructive about how this whole industry operates.
Where can I find out more information?
Okay, well, I have a website, nancyhartwell.com, that has a ton of information about how the 21st century slave trade and the modern day human trafficking works. There's even like a 5-part course that you can download for free. All we need is your email address, and I'll send you a newsletter every couple months with updates about what's going on in this particular part of the world. nancyhartwell.com. There are links to my books and this course that, if you're interested in this topic, you really need to download.
Well, looks like that's all the time we have for today. Anyone interested in purchasing this book again can log on to our website at semediapro.com or visit Amazon. The book is available in Kindle and paperback, or you can visit nancyhartwell.com for lots of information and for a link to purchase this book. That was Nancy Hartwell, author of Harem Slave, 1,904 Days of Hell on the Persian Gulf. Thanks again for joining us today, Nancy.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Fascinating topic and something we really need to be more aware of. And listeners, if you're interested in getting your book published, please visit us at semediapro.com and click on the book publishing link. This is Jodi Hockinson, host of Southeast Media Sunrise, Southeast Media Productions. Like us on Facebook at Southeast Media Productions, or visit our website at semediapro.com.